آله وصحبه ومن والاه. So continuing about the nature of our hearts and how we are intended to cultivate a sense of purity and a sense of soundness of spiritual meaning within our hearts before our actions are affected by our minds that are related to selfish or worldly material gain. And that is the shaitan's game plan, is selfishness, materialism, worldly desire. These are his entrances. And so cultivating the heart is to look into how can we develop sincerity. One of the major stumbling blocks to sincerity amongst people who are believers is what the Prophet ﷺ, he said, أَخْوَفْ مَا أَخَافُ عَلَيْكُمْ الشِّرْكِ الْخَفِيِّ. I fear and am worried deeply of you as believers that you would be afflicted with kind of a subtle or hidden type of shirk, polytheism. And in other narrations it's referred to as the minor shirk. And so, does anybody know what that is? It's a riya. We call that ostentation in English. Ostentation is where someone, because of their environment, they develop a whole new personality. And they're showing like, I'm this and that. But outside of those people around them, they wouldn't be like that. And so they're creating a persona. They're projecting an identity or an attitude that is something that is like showing off, trying to look special, trying to make yourself accepted by these people in a certain way. So the Prophet ﷺ, when they asked him, they said, what is the minor shirk? What is this? And the Prophet ﷺ said, showing off and doing good deeds. And then he continues saying that God will say when accounting mankind for their deeds, go to those whom you showed off to in this world to see how they will be able to recompense you. See what kind of reward you will get from them. And so in another narration, the Prophet ﷺ, he said, يَقُومُ الرَّجُلُ فَيُصَلِّي فَيُزَيِّنُ صَلَاتَهُ لِمَا يَرَى مِنْ نَظَرِ الرَّجُلِ. That a guy is at the mosque, and then there's somebody sitting next to him, or some Muslims are there, and so now he starts to make his prayer long and everything, and he's increasing in what type of worship he's doing, simply because he can tell other people are watching him. Otherwise, it would have been a very quick rooster prayer, boom, boom, And so that's where we have to be careful. So whenever it says in the end of, what is the last ayah of Surah Al-Kahf, here we are, it's the Friday, it's test time. وَلَا يُشْرِكْ بِعِبَادَةِ رَبِّهِ أَحَدًا. So if you look at the way it's said, one who is a true believer, who's going to go to heaven, they would not associate with their Lord in his worship. وَلَا يُشْرِكْ بِعِبَادَةِ رَبِّهِ. So he's worshiping his Lord, but he would not associate others with that. Meaning, if you're doing Islam, but you're doing it in a certain way, or doing it more extensively, or you're doing things that you would not normally do as a Muslim simply because other Muslims are watching you, or that you would like to be seen by them, then you are doing some sort of ostentation. The Prophet ﷺ is narrated in Al-Bukhari. For shortness of time, we'll just bring the translations. Whoever did something for reputation, sum'ah, somebody's trying to gain people's benefit, worldly notoriety, for show, then God will give them what they want. Meaning what? If you did something in Islam because some other people were watching you, and then you would think, they'll think I'm religious. I'm a religious person because I did this, or I'm following the religion. Then those people will think that about you. They will think you're a religious person. So then you will have received your intention, correct? You intended that, and then you got it. So you shouldn't expect anything from Allah because you have gone to other of creation. So it's very important for framing our own understanding of theology in a very simplistic form, as well as when we explain it to others. There is creator and there's creation. This is very important to have this in your mindset, right? Is that the Creator, He is the source of all of creation. Everything that is a creation, it derived all of its being, all of its value, all of its skill, all of its wealth, all of its knowledge, all of its abilities from the Creator. So to ever believe that one of creation is worthy of some individual praise, knowing good and well with this simple point that it has no praise worthy of it because it was given those qualities from one that is only worthy of praise. So we should always be thinking in that way. Man kana yuridu harth al-akhirah, the ayah says, whoever is seeking the reward of the hereafter, whoever is genuinely seeking God's pleasure, they're seeking a commitment to the responsibility that was given to us when we were first created, then that person will have the cultivation of the hereafter. There will be paradise, there will be gardens, there will be bliss, and they will be in the presence of Allah and look at Allah in a way that we would not imagine until we see it, right? And so then he says, but whoever is looking for the cultivation of this world, then they will get what they are intending. Allah will. People want worldly gain and benefit. See, many people have some strange idea. I'll never forget when I was in Egypt studying back in the year 2003. And I went to go to get some juice at the juice store. And the guy asked me where I was from, and I told him America. And then I explained to him that I came here to study the Islamic sciences and study the Arabic language and the Quran and all of that. And he's like, but you have America. Why don't you go there and become a doctor, engineer, or a Hollywood guy or something, you know? Like, why would you come to our country, right? He's like, he's seeing it in terms of material value. Like, I wish I could go to America and leave all these Muslims here. You see? Yeah? And so this is where, you know, there's something that has been lost. So whoever's seeking the hereafter will have that increase for them, and it's an eternity of never-ending bliss and comfort. Whereas whoever's looking for here, they will get that, but they will not have the hereafter if they're looking for worldly gain. Imam al-Shafi'i has a very famous statement where he said the most difficult actions, ashadul a'mal thalatha, okay, are three most difficult actions because they require a strong sense of spiritual purity, a heart that is clean and pure. And so the first one, he says that al-jud min qillah, that to be generous when you only have a little means, when you're struggling and very tight on your finances, and you're trying to make ends meet. To be generous, not just giving something simple, but to go out of your way to help someone or to give to a cause, that's pure sincerity. And then after that, he said, al-wara' fil khalwa, that when you have piety, when it's just you in the sin, you have a sin in front of you, and you would usually do that. It's very easy to do that, but you choose piety, even though it's just you, Allah, and the sin, the situation in which you can sin. So that is true piety when you make that decision right then and there. I'm not going to do this, right? Because nobody else is there to stop you. It's just you and Allah. So your heart is with Him. And because there's no one looking, you see, the ostentation is not there. And then he says, وَالْخَوْفُ مِمَّنْ يُرْجَى. So that someone that you're worried about how someone who you hope would benefit you. And so now you would act in a certain way to gain benefit from that person. And so you're trying to gain them. Or you act in a certain way like you won't do what's right or speak the truth because you fear the retribution from someone. Right? So speaking up for the truth and doing what's right, when someone you hope benefit from them, so you won't do it. Because if I say these things to that person, I might not gain from them. But you're seeking what? Allah. And so the same thing is true when, this person might get mad or upset with me, or if I stand for my being a Muslim and getting off for Jummah at work or praying my Dhuhr Salat at work or whatever, then maybe my employer might say, but this is my right and we have to stand up, and there are many other Muslims that if I stand and they will stand, and we will all have our practice here preserved. So the last but not least is the Prophet ﷺ talked about pessimism, al-tayra, right? Pessimism and bad omens. And many Muslims do this, by the way. I don't know how many times people call me with this. Imam, such and such happened, and so then does that mean this? And I'm like, no, we don't interpret things like that at all, right? We said, نَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَى اللَّهِ فَهُوَ حَسْبِيَ اللَّهُ وَنِعْمَ الْوَكِيلُ. We are content with Allah, as our creator, provider, and sustainer, and whatever His plan is, we are moving on that path. And we are ready and willing, planning for the hereafter. Jannah is nothing to sacrifice, right? So the Prophet ﷺ made very strong prohibitions of believing in bad omens. Oh, that happened and this means this. Oh, because of such and such. Or if I said this, then that will happen. You're like, oh, I hope this doesn't happen. Oh, see, now it's going to happen because you said that. Things like these things, And so then the Prophet ﷺ, he said, and that is cancelled. يَمْحُ اللَّهُ بِهِ التَّوَكُّلِ. That Allah has encouraged you all to understand the nature of dependence and reliability is 100% in Him. And so you're not expecting anything other than whatever He has planned. And you are hoping for what's good, but when something negative happens, you are content with it, knowing there is good to be derived from this. There are lessons, there are situations, there are things I'm not seeing. And I would be glad if it is that I'm being punished for my sins. I know what Jahannam looks like. I'm glad to have that removed from me here. You see? This is the attitude of the believer. Pure reliance, pure comfort and contentment with Him. So may Allah make us among those who are sincere with pure hearts, so when our time comes that we are worthy of Jannah, inshallah.